Howdy, howdy folks. We are at the Waldport Community Center where they are holding the City Council meeting today. I'm running a little bit late, so we're in a rush here, but let's get into it and see what's going on.
Mayor Lambert?
Here.
Councilman Dunn?
Here.
Councilor Booth?
Here.
Councilor Morris? Here. Councilor Woodruff?
Here.
Councilor Townsend?
Here.
Councilor Stevenson? The quorum is present.
And then consent agenda, and I was just reading the minutes, and which we just got, and I wanted to amend, I don't know, maybe I'm just not finding it, but under the page 5, 18 through 28, there's the report about the pavilion, the courts, and the concrete work. And city manager said that he would send me the bid and the contract, and I have not yet received that. Okay. But it doesn't look like you have any of our council comments there, so maybe you have it in another part that I'm just not seeing.
I have, where Stevenson asks for the bid and the contract, but I will amend that.
Anybody else have any other amendments or comments they'd like to make on the minutes of the May 22nd meeting? I know it's like 13 pages long and we got it 5 minutes ago. So
We got it more than 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Let's not be passive aggressive today, please.
So there are no more comments, or there are? Sorry. Okay. Anybody have any amendments or comments to make about the May 27th minutes? Okay, then we'll move on to public comment. And I just want to state that this is a time where you have 3 minutes to speak.
I think we have a motion to consent.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I motion we accept it.
You know,
I second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimously accepted.
That was done first, the second?
I'm second.
Okay, thank you. As amended.
Okay. So then we move on to public comment. The public has 3 minutes to comment. This is not a time for any defamatory or aggressive statements. This is not a time for the council to respond. We're just supposed to listen to what you have to state. And then later, under council comments and concerns, we can ask or address your comments then. So the first person on the list is Teresa Carter. And Teresa, I'm going to start my clock.
Pardon?
I'm going to start the clock.
Oh, okay. My concern is that we're still not hearing anything about that audit and how that's coming along. And that's, I hate to say it, Dan, a real black mark as far as I'm concerned, because I feel like you've been lying to omission to all of us, not telling us that those have not been done. And it really bothers me. It really seriously concerns me. Okay, the second thing is Township has heard that there's a water line going in over to Peterson Park, I believe it's what it's called, and we want to know where that water line's going. Not that I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it probably needs to happen since those people are on wells and such. And I know people can't develop some of their properties because of it as well. Anyway, but we want to know where it's going. Does that make sense? And where the sewer line is going that's coming down from our industrial park. I think that needs to be addressed at some point, because we're kind of getting very protective of our properties. So anyway, that's it. And Todd, he told me to sign him up, and he's not here.
Okay. All right.
I know he was coming from work.
Is there another chance for public comment later in the meeting? Okay. I know there usually is. Okay. All right. So I see that you signed him up, but he's not here. Okay. Right. So we'll save that for later, I guess. Anybody else have any public comment they'd like to make? Okay. Moving right along. Discussion items. Number 4, a fee schedule of fiscal year 26. This I think we're all familiar with, seen in years past. Does council have any concerns or questions?
I think this is part of the bigger picture of having our city be healthy economically, running it like a business, rather than a charity.
Right. And I would think you've seen this in the budget meetings, right? This was probably reviewed.
I don't think this was.
It's more detailed out, yeah. That's
Yeah.
the breakdown.
Right,
Okay.
this is just part, kind of a part of doing this yearly.
Would anyone like to make a motion to amend the existing resolution 1303 to establish yearly fees?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay.
Are you not voting with us?
No, I'm sorry, my alarm was going off for the public comment, so I was turning it off. Should have had a lot more time, I guess. Okay, so all in motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone not in favor? Okay, so unanimously that was passed. So then, now we're going to do our insurance policy. Anybody have any questions or concerns or anything about the, it looks like this is a topic to allow for discussion and feedback from council on what they would like to see moving forward. It looks like it's a proposal to raise our insurance and to change the way the insurance works for the community spaces. It looked like the liquor license was an example used with OLCC. Anybody have any idea of how they would like to proceed?
So Dan, I know that this has been a hot topic for all of us because it's really creating some hardship for small groups in that. So can you kind of outline for us the best resolution we've been able to find so far?
Yeah, and I would say, I think we've now reached a compromise by adopting Eugene's model as kind of the best in show, if you will, best in class. The Eugene model did have a breakdown in some of the different events, and we were able to accommodate those groups that were stating that there were some challenges for them. We were able to go through, and we have a model broken down now that was able to alleviate those concerns. So we do not have any groups that I am aware of currently that have ceased participation due to the insurance requirements. Most everybody has been able to meet them relatively easily. We have had a couple challenges with a couple outside groups on the insurance, but we've been able to work through those relatively readily. It is a challenge for those doing alcohol events in our city. Categorically, on city property when doing alcohol event, the insurance rider that Eugene and CIS recommend is very high. The OLCC guidelines are, under $500,000. We are asking for $2 million. It does create an additional cost for those holding alcohol events. I will say that based on conversations with several local attorneys who do this for a living, that Eugene has got it absolutely right. A single incident with somebody who's overserved and in an accident can easily exceed even the $2 million mark. I would note very specifically that the Uptown Pub, who has been in service for over 50 years prior, was shut down just 2 years ago due to exactly this reason, and is now under different ownership and operation. So it is very important, and as I said, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we, after many discussions and concerns expressed by the council and the mayor here about the challenges associated with this, we really went through and sat down with CIS and went through each piece, and they simply at the end of the day suggested that Eugene is really the best that they've seen do it, and that it was just as easy to adopt Eugene's model. And as they put it, there are a lot of lawyers down there who are working very hard in the public interest. And that was very important because there were some other cities that had much more rigid controls. And I felt that a city that Eugene tends to have a very strong public presence, a very strong public advocacy presence. And they really went through that with that mindset. I thought that that really did exemplify exactly what we would really want to look for here, which is a strong protection of the public, but also a very specific mindset towards serving the public as best as possible.
So I know that there was challenges with small groups that wanted to have classes in here, for instance, and if there was any kind of movement going on that was expensive, were we able to deal
Yes,
with that?
we were able to. There is a matrix, and I do not have it for today, but I will have it for the next meeting. That kind of the graphic, the flow chart.
Right.
We have a very successful flow chart now that honestly exempts a lot of those low motion groups, like Tai Chi is a great example of that. That allows them to just do the indemnity certification to the city. Basically, any organization does have a base insurance requirement, and there's a very big difference between indoor and outdoor, but no organization that we've found has had a challenge with the insurance certificate. Most of them had it. It was just a matter of going and getting one that said that the city was that they also insured.
So are you gonna present other models to the city, to the council? Are we just adopting Eugene, or are we gonna?
The suggestion after working with, the suggestion was to just adopt Eugene as best in class. Most of the other models were significantly more rigid, and I felt that based on the feedback that I had heard from myself and from the rest of the council, that's not what we were looking for. We wanted a more flexible model, and so I chose what I thought was the most positive advocacy that met the requirements, and that was the minimum requirement really that CIS was recommending was that 2 million.
And that Eugene is like 2 million people, right?
Yes.
So it seems like we could model a city that had 2,000 people. And maybe something that was in the county.
The challenge there is that insurance is individualized. It's not based on the number of people in the community. Eugene actually has enough population that they could self-insure if they wanted to. We obviously can't do that, but the size of your community doesn't change the size of a lawsuit if somebody gets hurt or injured.
No, I was just thinking the size of events and the amount of community involvement.
The events in Eugene start very low. It doesn't really change the insurance requirement at all. They don't scale based on the size of the event at all.
Okay, so I'm hearing that you're not going to present any other model to council.
I was not unless it's requested.
Would the council like to see any other models of any other insurance flows, or are we just going to go with the city of 2 million?
Is this what CIS?
CIS's suggestion was that Eugene's model was the best in class that they saw. And when I said, well, what if we just adopt that and follow their changes? They said, well, that's a great idea. And that's the letter reflects on the back that they went through it and felt that that was adequate to support our needs.
Well, I actually had a question about the letter, because it states that it looked at our website requirements, and so I was curious if these insurance requirements are the 2 million that you're proposing, or what we had currently at the 1 million?
Our websites currently reflect the Eugene model.
Okay, so it says we will be revamping our website next week to reflect the additional options and requirements.
I apologize, that was a statement that was written 2 months ago when this was going to come up in March.
Okay.
3 months ago. And subsequently, the website was changed to reflect the model as it was necessary.
And that was without a vote from council?
No, that's an operational concern. So I bring this to you in case you do not approve of the operational change.
So we're not being asked to do a motion for this. This was informational, right?
This was informational. However, if you're like,
Feedback.
Dan, we hate this, obviously I work for the council and will change accordingly. This was an operational change under my purview as necessary to protect the city and to ensure that we are protected from a liability standpoint. However, again, I work at the construction of the council, so if, and I think we worked really hard to find a model that accommodated the groups and the concerns that we heard and the feedback from the users. And the only gap that we have right now that we do not have a good solution for is the Wednesday market. That is the only one that we just have a gap on, and we're doing indemnity certification, but we really should have an insurance for it. There's some risk to those vendors because they indemnify us, but it does create a risk for those vendors that is probably, we instead of requiring, we're encouraging them to get an insurance. And we do have 12 different providers of insurance listed on our website now instead of just one.
So with this new model, if like the vendor or somebody's holding an event, they could go to the website, they could look at this flow chart, and they could figure out exactly what they needed.
Yes.
Okay, I like that.
Well, and the fact that we've been able to meet the concerns of all the different groups that we were concerned about.
The only significant pushback we got was on alcohol, and I do have to say that that was one where we adopted what we feel is what really is suggested as the best in class. And again, as you know, we've got examples locally of incidents where we've lost large businesses because of a single event.
Well, what does the council think about maybe having asked some of these community partners to go through this process and give us feedback? Since we think that we're meeting the needs of the community, it would be nice to get feedback from the community who is filling out the forms.
So, well, I was gonna say,
Okay, so you don't want any feedback from the
If they
community?
have problems, they can bring it.
So I guess we'll make a comment to the public then, to just go ahead and fill out the form and give us feedback on what they think about it.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, great, cool. Sounds like consensus there. Any other discussion needed here? No?
I will say, just as one last aside, we do reevaluate this at our risk management meeting with CIS every year. So, this is not something that is static. This is something that we will evaluate as part of our overall city risk assessment, which happens roughly every February. And so if we find that we get feedback that I would bring to you and say, hey, well, we've got a bunch of things canceling, we've got here's where we have a gap. We could also then get feedback from CIS next year if we adopt a different model and have them say, okay, well, here's where you want to do that. As a great example of that, recently, this is the exact action we took based on CIS's feedback when recreational immunity was challenged in Keyport, and we ended up closing 2 trails. And we did that in caution, even though other communities left trails open, simply because we didn't feel that we had the liability shield necessary. The legislature is passing more legislation on that this session, but it is important to remember that we do a risk evaluation every year.
Can we get the evaluation from last February, since we didn't have a meeting in March?
Yes, it's generally verbal, but I'll provide the written comments that were made.
Okay, because it's not like a report that you fill out and has points.
No, they come down, they meet with me for 2 hours. We talk about everything that's going on. We talk about different models. They talk about what best practices might be, and then they make some specific suggestions in writing, and then they make some verbal suggestions just, at the end of the meeting.
And so the park is added to that insurance?
Yes.
Is that the time when we hear about what the rates are gonna be doing for the next budget?
That correspondingly happens the next month. So we do the risk assessment meeting, and the next month I meet with Brown & Brown as our provider that that's our portal, much like your agent for State Farm is a local agent. Brown & Brown is our agent. They purchase through CIS for us. We meet with them, we go over the different changes that we've done. They make recommendations based on those changes. We fill out a lot of paperwork. We send it into CIS. And we're actually having a follow-up meeting, I think, a week or two to determine our final coverage for this next year. One of the big questions, to the mayor's point, was the park and the level of the park and how we adjust the park's insurance based on the different activities.
Okay, moving on. We're now to the city manager's report. Does anybody have any questions, council, for the manager on this report?
I'd just like to hear from the city manager.
Oh, okay, please.
So sidewalks have begun. Most of you have noticed on Crestline. Lots of activity there. It's amazing how steep some of it is and how not steep some of it is. At the end of the day, that will all be filled in so that we have a nice large pathway. We are talking with our engineer to make sure that we do have and will be purchasing appropriate guardrails along some of the sections, because even after all is said and done, there will be some steep slopes coming off there.
I wondered if lighting along that sidewalk is also part of it.
We have some lighting planned. However, the light to put lighting across the entire way creates some challenges. There's already existing lighting down a lot of Crestline, so we're going to supplement that to an extent by some additional lighting across the street on that area. But we don't want to create a attractive nuisance where the neighbors along there just have this huge lighted corridor that's blaring in their houses all winter long. So yes, there's lighting. No, it's not what you would do in, say, an urban area. Sewer to the industrial park, the DEQ review is back. We are paying the bill and meeting with our engineer on Monday to get that out to bid as quickly as possible. I will tell you, having it come in so late has created a real challenge. The school district has been really firm on the fact that we can't dig up that road because the buses need it during the school year. So we have some real tough discussions that we have to have with the county about how they want us to proceed, because the timeline is so tight following Oregon public bidding law that we are not entirely sure that we can get that done in this year and that the project would move to spring. If that were to happen, that would mean the delay of the animal shelter opening. Again, we had started these discussions with the county in October. It's really too bad that it's taken us till June. We are going to do everything we can to expedite that process, but it is almost entirely out of our hands. The school district is willing to give up some parking spaces for us during the construction, to have those be ripped up during the school year, lose that one bay, but they're not willing, they cannot close that one road. So unfortunately, that creates a significant impediment for us. We're going to try to front load the contract such that that's the first part that happens, but based on the timelines required by the state of Oregon, the start date of this project now is late August, and school starts, what, the 3rd, the 4th? So, we've just run out of room. And if they could have gotten this a couple months earlier, unfortunately, they've got their own work process to go through. And I think everybody's working hard to get this done, but, I will say that we are not letting it sit at all. We're moving it quickly forward, so that we can at least get going.
And the sewer to the industrial park, was that disconnected into our regular sewer system?
Yes, the agreement that we have will be that we're taking over the Lincoln County School District pump station, the lift station that they have there built for the high school. There was a no-fault error when they originally built it and connected it to, or the community college was built, and it was connected into that sewer. Once you have two distinct properties connected into one sewer system, it must be a public sewer system. And so the fact that it's still a private system technically violates the rules. We're not focusing on that, we're just focusing on fixing it going forward. Even DEQ admits that somebody missed it back in the day and that it shouldn't have been, they thought it was all one school complex in the review, but, so we'll take over that lift station, and that saves us considerable money getting the system in place.
Is that lift station adequate to what we're adding to it?
For now. There is a time, conceivably, that we could see the industrial park build out substantially, but were that to happen, we would also have mechanisms through SECs to be able to improve that lift station. But right now, that lift station is more than adequate for what we're expecting to see. The wastewater project is still just plugging along. We're waiting for the electrical work to start. Right now, it's just a bunch of slots of concrete channels, so it's not really all that interesting yet, but as it gets closer to fruition, we'll take some interesting pictures that kind of explain exactly what's happening in that project. But right now, it's just a lot of concrete work. The surface is being poured in the playground in Southwood Park. I spoke to the contractor this morning. Even though we are potentially going to get some rain next week, they are still just going to continue plugging along. I'm a little concerned about that based on the technical, reviews that we've been told that we cannot have rain. So I'm going to have a conversation with the engineer that does this and just clarify whether they need to take a break for. I don't think the guys want to take a break because it means losing money as part of the contract, but I think we may have to say there's a 3-day gap, and so we're going to find out. They've got most of the base done, which is fantastic. It's going slowly. They were not able to bring 2 crews out for this week, which was a real impediment. But they are moving along. It should be, it should be done before the end of June, which is fantastic. The small city allotments grant, we had to make some substantial changes to that, but we got it all submitted, and the comment from ODOT was, this looks great. So we're really hopeful. We have not gotten that grant in quite a long time. As the grant amount of money went up, the number of cities that got it went down. So back when it was 50,000, almost everybody got it. Now that it's $250,000, almost nobody gets it. We are hoping that even if we don't get the full grant, we get half of it, and that would do one of the other projects. So
how much did we put in for?
250,000. As ODOT said specifically when I turned in a grant that was not the full amount, they said, well, that's dumb, turn in the full amount. So I followed their advice. The dog park is finished. It is unofficially open. It has gates, it has all the pieces. We did get some comments on some trash receptacles, but we're going to address that here shortly. There's also been a comment that we need to have some sort of water there. We're going to try to figure out what to do on that. But in the meantime, the dog park is open and it is working. We've got some signage yet to get, lots of stuff yet to come, but we wanted people to be able to have some outlet because we're starting to see a lot of dog feces on the fields, and we really need to control that as best we can. So we'll put some effort into kind of getting signage and all the little pieces available, and then really pushing that out to the community. There's been some interest in the grand opening. So my question to you is, when might you want to schedule that? I think it would probably be best mid to late July, because I'm pretty confident we'll have most everything done by that point. So I'll reach out to you at the July meeting to try to schedule a specific time. And then paving. We are going to be purchasing what is basically like a big heater for the road. It is just over $20,000. The advantage that this device provides us, along with the other planned purchases, and we did a demo of it, and it's fantastic, is it heats up the existing pavement, creating basically remelting, so that when you put the mix on top of it and compact it down, instead of having that lip where you have one sealed pavement and then another which breaks, water gets in and cracks, it creates a hot bond between the two. And that allows a more long-term effective seal. The other thing that will allow us to do is, you see those cracks in the road, we'll be able to go and remelt the road in that location and kind of re-compact it down and fill the cracks without having to fill them with a third-party material. So it has a lot of potential. It's very cool and very affordable for what it does. So we estimate, based on the current price of potholes that we've seen, we estimate that it will pay for itself within about a year of us. Our crew will spend a bunch more time doing this work, but the advantage is that even in colder times, that heats up the pavement. So we won't have as limited a window of pavement repair as we do right The other thing is, it will also allow us, one of the things that we don't do very often, is we try to paint instead, it's called a torch down, which is the marks on the road that are a little bit raised that you put down. Often our pavement just doesn't get hot enough here, and you have to apply a lot of heat to get it to go down and stay down. This will allow us to heat up the road, apply that material when it's very nice and warm, and that should allow those pave marks and the money that we spend on them to be much more successful.
When are we purchasing the original?
We've got the bid now, we're waiting for the second part of it, but within the next 2 weeks. It will be before the end of this fiscal year.
Anybody else have any comments or questions for the city manager? All right, we'll move on to public comment. Additional public comment is Mr. Swift here. Sir, you're on the list here. Okay.
I'll just be real quick. This is a continuation of the last 3 minutes from last month.
Okay, so I don't need a timer.
So, anyway, again, we're willing to cooperate and work with the city if we have some kind of workshop or we put on the agenda. I will make a request, based on comments from the city councilor that was online and in social media admitting that the issue was actually never under litigation. Please stop saying it's a legal issue because it's really a blockade from working together and it's not doing anyone really any good. Other than that, I yield the rest of my time to anyone here that has any questions or comments for me, as opposed to messaging me online or making comments online. I'm right here. Anyone?
Yes, I
Yes,
I know you're referring to me. I never said it was a legal issue in the sense that there was a legal case. It is a legal question to be settled. So please don't rewrite my comments.
I'm not. They're all out there for the see. So again, it's not a legal issue. We want to work with you.
It is a legal issue. This is not a case.
So, what I'm hearing you, for like the last year, and for you, meetings that I was the president for, but you've been asking the council to put Township 13 on the agenda, the easement, and I'm hearing you say even a workshop. I know at some point Greg and I were meeting with the board, trying to work things out because there was confusion about what easements were being used. Is the council opposed to a workshop with the board of Township 13?
I guess personally, I would not be, I'm never opposed to meeting with people, but if you're expecting us to settle a legal issue.
We couldn't do that in a workshop anyways, it would be just for discussion's sake, right? So does anyone want to make a move to have a workshop? Is that what we need as a vote for the council?
Yes.
Seeing that that's what we would like to have?
Did we ever get the copies of the other easements that you guys are talking about?
We have them, and I can actually send them to you right here when I sit back in. I believe we're still connected on Messenger.
Yeah.
I can send them right to you.
Because what I hear you asking is for us to all sit down together and look over these easements together and discuss the relationship between the city
I
and
thought that was
Township.
something we legally couldn't do. Is that correct, Dan? Or that would,
We
having a
can't
workshop?
legally workshop with the
Exactly,
board.
You can have a discussion with the citizens, but these are legal documents, and you cannot override a legal document by the.
So having the meeting itself would not be the problem, but making a decision based on that. Okay, thank you.
And I absolutely agree that you can't override a legal document. What we're requesting is that we're bringing the rest of the legal documents that were overlooked when the decision was made.
But
And you even requested that the city attorney be present. I remember at one meeting you said that you had no problem with speaking to the city attorney about these.
That is correct-ish. When we got the letter from the attorney, we contacted the attorney and requested to speak with the attorney and go over all the documents, and the attorney said, not a problem with me, I just have to get board approval, and then the board voted, I don't know if it was unanimous or majority, but they voted that no, we could not talk to the city attorney.
Okay.
So we couldn't talk, we couldn't be put on the agenda, we couldn't talk to the city attorney. So hence me showing up for over a year now. And let me preface that I do appreciate Heidi and Greg showing up and having a meeting with us on your own time. That was very appreciated. And I believe after that meeting, it was pretty collaborative and cooperative, and we were moving in the right direction.
I thought so too, but thank you. So again, I'm gonna ask council if they're willing to move to make for a workshop with this board, not to make decisions, but to collaborate and discuss what their frustrations are, and maybe it's not legal. Maybe it's not even about the legal forms.
Of course it is, but,
Well, it definitely is for the city side.
well, and we are from the city side.
Right.
Okay.
And I think the whole attorney thing, what we were originally getting at is, if you met with our attorney, we would have to pay him, which is what happens. He sits with you for an hour, you guys go over back and forth, and at the end of the day, you guys still disagree with what he says. Now we're at the same spot, but we've just incurred more charges. To where it's better if, you know, we were saying, if you had an attorney, those both talk together.
Yes.
And say, oh, let's come to an agreement, instead of us going back and forth. I think that's what we were trying to get at, is we feel it might be a cost to the city that would be something that we shouldn't occur, because we may not agree on everything. So even if you sat down with the attorney at the end of the 2 hours, you still may not agree. Like what, $200 an hour, $250 an hour. So that's what I was trying to get at, is
I think that was the basis of our vote as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Workshop, I mean, I don't have a problem with the workshop, just sitting and talking, and just listening to what they have to say, but.
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion for us to do a workshop with the board of Township 13?
You know, I'll motion that we have a meeting with them, and just hear what they have to say, and possibly get some communication going.
Before the vote, Sal, can I make one more comment?
Before you get your vote, you want to make a comment? Or you
Before
sure?
there's a vote.
Okay.
Just real quick. We don't want the city to incur any legal expenses over this issue that we feel could be just discussed amongst the community, amongst neighbors. So, that's why, you know, we've been coming here. Let me just refer to my notes real quick. Thank you for your patience. But we don't want, the alternative to not working with us and not having a workshop is eventually it's going to come to a head where, and this is what I don't want, is some projects going on and some of my neighbors have finally had enough and there's a stop to it, and then there's a deputy with a court order, and it doesn't have to be that way. And why waste the sheriff's office time? Why waste the court's time? Why buy an attorney another boat? And I don't know who the city attorney is. He seems like a very nice person that I talked to on the phone, and I understand there was an expense incurred by the city. But if the documents from the county were never discovered by that attorney, how much is it gonna cost if, and we're willing to give you the documents, no charge, no finder fee, just like, hey, here they are, and you don't have to pay us to do it. So.
All right, so we had a motion to meet with the board in a workshop from Greg, and I believe you seconded it?
I did, yeah, I'd love to meet with you.
I have a question.
All right, please.
Who's gonna be in this room other than us and your board? because I don't have a clue about easements.
Right.
I don't understand that line to that line. Who's gonna be the ratifying people to tell us?
But we're not coming to a decision.
Well, no, I'm not asking for a
But I wanna be able to
decision.
understand
If
what
I'm
you're
looking at
saying.
2 pieces of paper, what am I
Okay.
looking at?
Okay, actually, I remember in a meeting, in the meeting with you and them, that you guys said that you had a person who was a contractor who read easements, who would be a person that would work between us. I wanna say his name was Vandalay, maybe?
We do have Joseph Vandy. I'm sorry,
Joseph
what I missed.
Vandy?
Okay, I thought something was,
No, I don't, I just remember somebody saying that there was like a liaison who would be happy to
Yeah,
talk to the council.
yeah, he's been a developer in the area for decades.
Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I think this is a great thing, but if you're gonna ask me if I think that paper's right or wrong, I don't know if that paper's right.
Yeah.
I mean, 22 years I've been here, I haven't,
I don't think he's asking us to say if it's right or wrong, he's asking us to read it.
Yeah.
and if I'm reading something, Heidi, and I don't know what I'm reading, who's gonna interpret it for
Yeah.
me?
And
I don't know what I'm reading.
that's a great question. We have a contractor / developer that has experience with easements. We also have a person on our board that what I would consider to be an easement expert, and he does work in that field. However, we don't say where he works because we don't want to, we have to protect his employment.
I
It's
wouldn't want
it's
to,
not
I wouldn't want to, I just want to make sure that if I'm sitting there and somebody's showing me and says that's where it is, and somebody over here says, no, it's not. I mean, people in the room know me well enough, I've refereed for 45 years. Each coach thinks that they know what's going on, and neither one does. I want to make sure that at least if I'm supposed to look at something, what am I looking at? And if you have a credible source, and we have a credible source,
Would Jaime need to be there?
To the planner there?
Yeah, that's fine.
that's all I care about is don't answer, because it looks like a piece of paper to me. I think it's great to get this together.
Okay, well then maybe.
Does Jaime know anything about easements, or?
Just a little bit.
I think basically we just want to have a meeting so you can show us what you got, we can look at everything, and then we just walk away, and then at that time, we can do whatever we gotta do, but we just want to basically hear what you guys have to say.
And that way I can stop coming here and being a pest.
But we'll miss you.
Yeah.
You will.
Well, there are 26 more amendments to the Constitution.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you very much.
If I may, does it need to be a workshop? You guys keep saying meeting.
Workshop, it's a kind of meeting.
Okay, I'm just for,
And it was, did I hear that the council was requesting for the planner to be there,
Yes.
Yeah, just if we could have, in case we have some questions.
but not legal counsel?
No. You know, what a red line means and blue line, basic stuff.
Okay.
Point of order, can I ask, would you like this workshop to precede the next council meeting? Or would you like it to be at a separate time and date?
Well,
And
I'm concerned the next council meeting, you have a holiday, it's gonna be the week before, and I don't know that you're gonna have people that are gonna be here. Not that mine is, but.
Isn't it the July 10th is the next council meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. I won't be here.
You said for August, let's just do, we do it for August?
Sometime before August, yeah, I think we need to get on it, but I would hate to start messing with holidays.
I mean, do you want to do it after the August meeting, maybe?
Or before.
Or before?
I'm okay to do it.
School's out, so you're.
So I'm gone.
Are you got in August?
Well, then, can we just do it in July?
I'm gone. I'm gone all month of July.
In all of August?
Yeah,
Well,
we'll figure that out.
we're discussing an agenda. Are we gonna have the workshop? I think that's what.
Yes.
So I guess we're gonna have the workshop, I guess we can, date to be determined, and we'll figure out.
If it's acceptable to you, I will try to find some dates by calling you, and then I will also reach out to Township 15 and see if those dates meet their timeline as well, and see if we can put something together.
I think that they're mostly all working also, so maybe Saturday might be more appropriate. Even though it'd be probably still on the 16th. Okay, then we're gonna go to council comments. comments and
I didn't vote
concerns?
on it.
Oh, we do need a vote?
Yeah, we only had a motion in a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I did ask, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
And myself. So, unanimous. Those were long motions. Okay, so then, council comments and concerns.
I'll start, I guess. Teresa talked, this for Dan, Teresa talked about, the sewer line. Was it gonna be going anywhere near
It's
Township?
not even underway yet, is it? Is my understanding?
Which sewer line?
I don't know, she just said, she talked about a sewer line.
Said about.
I was,
To the industrial park.
that's,
No, she was talking about to Peterson Park is what I had written
So
down.
Peterson Park is a water line.
then a sewer line.
So the water line from Peterson Park is on the ridge on the other side of the slough from Township 13.
Okay.
Which is a dream as of right now, is my understanding. It's not underway, right?
No. We have full plans to put a water line from the top of that ridge where we have a valve. So we have a valve at the top of that ridge. One section of that valve goes under the slough and across and pops out on Crestline, roughly. Another part of that goes down the end and feeds into Waldport Heights. What we have determined is that we do have some pressure concerns specifically in Peterson Park, and that the best thing that could happen for the city would be to replace that valve with a valve that could actually be shut off, and then run a third line from that location down to the bottom of Peterson Park through a parcel that's owned by a property owner there. The challenge is that property owner may or may not be agreeable to it. I think that they will, but that's not entirely certain. It allows them to develop that property, so there's a strong incentive for them to do that. And then once that happens, what it gives the city is the ability at that valve at the top of the hill to turn off sections of the city, which is very important if you're dealing with specific water line break or issue. A great example was last week, we had a valve go, and we had to shut off most of downtown to get to it. It would have been nice to be able to isolate that to a much smaller area. So it is the intention of the city to put a water line there, but it will have no impact on Township 13. It's not even remotely nearby.
I was something, I was missing something.
She might be referring to, so several times we've referred to replacing the inverted siphon at the bottom of Township 13. This is a system by which the sewer flows into the lift station at Township 13 and then goes up and then back down. This is a horrible design that's not used almost anywhere in the state, and it clogs pretty regularly. What we would much rather do is we are working on building a road from the grinder pump in Township, at the bottom of Township 13 on city property, down to the wastewater plant. And once that road's in place, we can run the sewer line down that road. And so instead of it going up and then down, it would just continue straight down. This is a much easier, safer flow. There are still considerations that need to be made, but it is much more likely to be successful. And that is a long-term plan for the sewer plant there. And that is a lot of the work that we do when we have additional fill. We'll take it down and dump it there to build that road out. But this is a long-term plan that is probably not going to come to fruition in the next, 1 to 2 years. This is more like a 5 to 10 year. Hopefully we get everything done and at some point find money to build that sewer line. Because it's still a rather long sewer line that would cost quite a bit of money to engineer there.
That's all I know.
I don't have anything.
I just want to make a comment to the community that many of us have lost several people over the last week. My family have lost 2 people to 2 separate accidents and another to suicide just here outside, around our community. So I just want to give condolences to those family members and other friends who are feeling these losses. And I also want to ask that everybody be very safe and careful on our roads this summer. I'm sure you all get the same feeling I get when we hear the sirens go out. So I just wanted to share that. And then I also wanted to just say that I'm very grateful for a festival and a parade in our city, celebrating Flag Day. and all of our communities, volunteers, and efforts that have gone to create celebration in our community when we need it. So thank you. With that, I'd like to close the city council meeting and go into an executive session where I'm told that city staff will be staying, and journalists and everyone else will be asked to leave.
You have to read the procedure before that.
Pursuant ORS 1926602I, to review and evaluate the employment-related performance of a chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing. Do you want me to keep going?
Nope, that's all you have to read.
All right, for that, thank you. You are welcome to stand outside for when we open the meeting back up after the executive session.
There we go.
All right, so we're gonna come back into the open meeting on Thursday, July 12th. Are you recording? I'm sorry.
Yep, I just pressed okay, because I was marking the time.
Okay, so is there any actions or discussion you'd like to make in the open session?
Yeah, I have a motion. After listening to more than 20 employees praise our city manager, and no one spoke critically of him other than that sometimes he has trouble delegating enough. That was the only thing I came up with. And listening to all those who spoke, I think we should commend our city manager, and I move that we commend him as a council for the good work that he's done, for the attitude that he has, for the humanity that he has, and for the smarts that he has. He does a great job for all of us. We need to support him in every way we can.
Yeah, we got nothing but praise. Nothing but praise. You're doing a great job.
I would second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm 1 no and 5 yeses. 6 yeses.
You talked about.
I'm sorry, 5 yeses, which shows us
Yes, Matt.
You talked about, Mayor, the PTO time, the time. Is that something we need to put on an agenda? How do we get to discuss that?
Yes, we would put that on the agenda.
So we need to work on.
So are we in agreement that we would like
We
to
want
put
it
on our
the agenda for
agenda?
next week.
Yeah, basically
To
talk about add the 2 holidays. You want to, can we? Is that
Okay,
To discuss adding, we'd like to add to the agenda that we
discuss the
two
adding 2 holidays? Yeah.
2 paid holidays.
To discuss it, yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, the June 19th and the Indigenous Peoples' Day. Okay, yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Maybe your time to turn.
I feel like it's more like the 5th or 6th, honestly, because Indigenous Peoples was there for a little while. Okay, anything else? All right, for the good of the order, sorry, I heard a sigh.
I just wanted to make a comment, because I think it was appropriate to do during the executive session about the minutes. You said that you really appreciated Dan's Friday minutes, and that you wish it was something you could share with the community. Not that I need to put more on my plate. but I can turn that email into a community newsletter that could be posted, bi-weekly, or, something like that, if that's something everybody thought was a good idea. It's something we could talk about later, too. I just wanted to throw it out there before I...
We're talking how we really like the
Lost
Friday.
Yes.
I call it Friday recap. It's nice to see what's going on, because a lot of times, we don't know everything. So it's nice to come home in the evening Friday and look at all the recaps for the week.
I know there's a lot of moving parts to that, but...
I think it really gives you the texture of what's going on, because you see the problems, the obstacles, the downsides, and you see the victories, the wins. And you also see the vision. And I think that's something that would be helpful for the community to see in some form
Right.
regularly as a part of what's on our website. I think we can connect better if they know what's going on. Because maybe from them we can get even more good ideas to come in.
Maybe we can put that on the agenda for next meeting, because I definitely want to talk about that, because I think there's some things that we may not want the public to see, but there's other things that definitely they should see,
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't need to be weekly, maybe
Waldport Digest.
Okay, so for the good of all, we adjourn. All right, so we adjourn. Thank you.
And we are just getting done here at the city council session down here in Waldport. It seemed like tensions were rather high with quite a few passive-aggressive comments and snide remarks coming from the council. There was some good communication, I feel, from one of the members of the public representing Township 13. Hopefully the council and Township can come to an amicable solution without the need for lawyers getting involved and costing everyone more money. It seemed that there was a bit of contention with the subject matter of the executive session. The council made a motion to give accommodation to the city manager, with the council voting yes and the mayor voting no on that. Seems like there's still quite a bit of tension there. We'll have to see how that continues to play out. Well, thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. And we'll see you on the next one, folks. Have a good day.